Hey guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so much for checking out another one of our super cool studio gear reviews. Oh, that is not all that this video is going to be about. It's also kind of a quick update for you guys about the channel and where I am. You'll notice I'm not in my nice big studio back in Colorado. I'm actually in Bangkok, Thailand right now. I'm traveling around. I've talked about it a little bit in a few other videos, but yeah, just kind of an update for you guys. I'm going to be filming a lot from, this is my little mobile rig here. I'm going to be filming a lot from here, doing different reviews, both of the gear that I have here behind me, as well as some of the pieces of gear I am going to be taking a look at for the next couple of months. A bunch of plugins. Nothing's really changing on the channel. I'm still going to be bringing you guys a bunch of content. I'm just going to be out here doing it from the road. Okay, so right now I have 3 months booked of travel all over Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, all kinds of really, really cool places. And I'm filming and producing music for my other YouTube channel, which is called Nomadic Bard, where I do kind of travel documentary style films and upload them there. We'll stick a link down in the description. Please go check that out, subscribe. I think you guys would really, really dig it. But in today's video, besides all of that, I'm going to start taking a look at some of the gear that I put together for my little mobile rig that I've been traveling with and used to kind of produce and do kind of a digital nomad thing with me as I move around the world. Now, I've already done some reviews of gear that I had planned to take with me. The Icon Platform M, the Arturia Keylab 49 Essential, the iLoud MTM speakers. I kind of had a whole system put together and was trying it out, and I was under the impression at the time that that is what I was going to be bringing with me. Well, as it worked out, that stuff was all still just a little bit too big and a little bit too heavy to really be able to travel with all the time. So I had to downsize even a little bit more. Now, I certainly don't regret buying those items. They're all great pieces of kit, and I stand by all of my reviews of them. I just wasn't, unfortunately, able to take them out with me on my big trip here. I instead had to look around and find some more creative solutions to get the gear that I needed and get it in a small enough form factor to be able to travel with. So this video is the first in a long line of videos I'm going to do about the stuff that I did actually end up bringing with me. And in this first video, I want to take a look at what has become one of the kind of centerpieces of my little setup here. This is the iRig Keys IO 49. Now, I purchased this keyboard as part of a very cool bundle from Sweetwater. It was kind of a special that they were running for the Christmas season in 2019, a couple months ago, and that was right before we left for our trip. We left early in January. Right now it's mid-February, and we've been traveling for about a month. But as I was putting everything together and kind of looking at my rig, and we were weighing out bags and looking at plane tickets and all this stuff, you know, like I said, the items that I had gotten in this kind of studio that I had built for myself was just a little bit too much, a little bit too heavy. I was going to cost quite a bit to fly with. So I ended up downsizing, and I went to Sweetwater. I have a great Sweetwater sales engineer, Josh Kathner, who's fantastic. And I called him and kind of talked with him a little bit and was seeing some stuff on the Sweetwater website, and I ended up finding a very, very cool bundle from IK Multimedia. Now, this bundle came with this keyboard, the iRig Keys IO 49, the iLoud Micro monitors, which are kind of the baby versions of those MTMs that we reviewed, as well as their Total Studio 2 Deluxe software. Now, I had used tons and tons of different plugins to do my work and to produce my music, and when I looked at the Total Studio 2 bundle, I started to realize that it actually came with a lot of stuff that I was already using in forms from other companies. So for example, for all my orchestral scoring needs, I always used East-West. But as you guys have seen, we've posted a few new videos looking at IK's plugins that are part of that Total Studio bundle. They have Miroslav Philharmonic, which is a really cool orchestral scoring plugin. They also have Sample Tank 4, which is their kind of sample system. You know, that's another thing that I was using East-West and Native Instruments Contact for. And, you know, just looking through this whole software package that came with Total Studio, I was really impressed, and I figured out, you know, instead of paying for all these different monthly subscriptions, again, East-West was, I think, $20 or $30 a month. Contact was quite expensive. I had tons and tons of like processing plugins, effects plugins that were all included in the T-Rax 5 bundle that came with Total Studio, it really just solved a lot of problems for me. I wasn't going to have to subscribe to all these. You know, as we're traveling, keeping our monthly overhead lower is really, really important. And so it just seemed like a really, really practical upgrade for me to get this bundle that included, again, keyboard, the speakers, really nice carrying case, all of the cabling that I needed for everything, and then all this software. It was a great deal. I paid about $500 US for that, and then I was able to get another deal because I purchased that and then had the deluxe version of all of these kind of plugin suites. I was then able to upgrade to Total Studio 2 Max, which is the kind of end-all be-all ultimate plugin and sample compilation, and that's normally almost $1,000. I was able to get the keyboard, the speakers, and the basic version for $500, and then through Josh Katner I was able to upgrade for another $250 to get that full Total Studio Max 2 bundle. Very, very cool, and I think $750 for a keyboard, speakers, a great little carrying case, and then software that I was paying a grand total of like over $100 a month for from all these different manufacturers. It was a really, really practical solution, and overall I've been really, really pleased. And like I said, we've been taking a look at some different kind of plugin stuff from IK in some recent videos. I'm going to keep looking at some different aspects of that, Amplitude and Syntronic and all this other stuff. A lot of that stuff is very, very good, and I have generally been impressed with the hardware. But you know, again, right now I want to talk about this iRig Keys device in particular, because if I'm being honest, it's actually the thing that I've been the least satisfied with as advertised. Now, I don't want to get into the negatives right off the bat because that'll make me sound whiny, and I definitely am not in the game to do that. As a MIDI controller, it is really nice. It works very well. It feels good to play. It has good connectivity in terms of, you know, you can do all the standard sustain pedal, all that kind of stuff. But there are some features of it that are advertised that don't really live up to the hype as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to grab the keyboard out for my setup now. We can kind of take a look at some close-ups of it and just kind of go over the features, and then I'll talk about some of the things that work really, really well and some of the things that don't work as well. Okay, so taking a closer look at the iRig Keys I/O, it's a very, very full-featured controller. The thing that I really, really like about it is very compact. It's, I don't know, 20 to 30% smaller than most other 49-key keyboards in the market. Like, I had gotten that Arturia Keylab, which was a great controller, but it just was even a little bit bulkier than this. Now, obviously, this does not have all the knobs and all the faders that I loved on the Keylab, but it does still have a little bank of drum pads. It does have 4 assignable encoders, well, actually 5 if you count this kind of detented scrolling one. A very basic transport section, pitch, mod, octave, you know, all the kind of typical stuff that you would expect from a 49-key keyboard. Build quality is okay. It's not amazing. The Arturia definitely felt a little bit more sturdy. These knobs had a little bit more play in them, but it's still something that when you get it packed up in the included case that I got with it, it doesn't feel like it's going to be breaking anytime soon, which is really, really nice. Now, in terms of playability, it's fine. It feels like a totally average MIDI controller. Nothing really amazing about it. It's not like one of the Native Instruments complete keyboards that has the FITAR keybed and it's just like super dreamy. It feels really nice. It isn't quite that nice, but it is totally playable. I've had no problems with it. Of course, you can hook up a sustain pedal on the back, but that's really only getting at half of what this product is designed to be. Okay? The reason it is called the iRig Keys I/O is that there is also an audio interface built in to this keyboard. Okay? Now I'll show a close-up on the screen so that you guys can see the back of it, but basically we have a single mic or line input. It's a combo XLR TRS jack. We have a tiny little kind of awkward gain knob, phantom power. It is all bus powered, by the way. You can purchase a separate power adapter for it, but you can also bus power it, which is nice. Left and right TRS monitor out jacks, an 1/8" headphone jack, and then the first thing that really put me off from this keyboard, which is this little port that you can see that says device on it, okay? Now, this port is how you hook it up to your computer. On the other end of that weird looking DIN cable jack thing is a standard USB cable that goes into your computer. So that's one of the most important things to note about this device right off the bat. It does not use standard USB. It uses this proprietary DIN cable, which, by the way, is all of 18 inches long. This was really, really off-putting to me when I very first pulled everything out of the box. It was something that I had read about briefly, reading other people's reviews, but didn't really think too much of it at the time until I got it and really started to think about it. First of all, unless you're in a situation like I've got my computer right here, right next to where I have the keyboard, that's totally fine and it happens to work for me. If you need to put this more than a foot or two away from your computer, you're gonna have to buy a USB extension cable, and a very high quality one, because it carries all of the power for the phantom power for the mic input and for the audio interface that's built in, as well as for the keyboard, the encoders and everything. So that's why they've used this proprietary connector. But at the same time, I would much rather have an AC like plug that goes into the wall and be able to just use a standard USB cable like I use with literally every other piece of digital gear I've ever owned. I've never seen a company do this proprietary jack thing, and then especially include a cable that is so incredibly short. That's definitely a downside. Another big thing to consider with that is that if that cable ever gets lost, I am hosed. I'm in Bangkok, Thailand right now. I'm sure there is an IK distributor somewhere here in Thailand, but if for some reason that cable goes away, I cannot use this piece of equipment at all. If it were a standard USB jack and then an AC power adapter, I could probably, even if I lost the AC power adapter, I could still at least use it as a controller, because the controller could get power over USB. That AC would probably just be to provide 48-volt phantom for the mic input, and that would be okay. I can figure out another interface or something like that. However, the fact that that cable is so proprietary and I would have to special order one and figure out how to get one to me here in an Airbnb in a foreign country, no good. I was very displeased with that. Now, obviously, it's kind of a unique situation for me, but even just for the average user, it's really short, and again, it's something that has to be special ordered. It's not something you can just go grab at a Walmart or an electronics store or something like that. You'd have to special order it from IK, and they've taken this opportunity to make sure that that cable is not particularly cheap to replace, as you would expect it to be. So that is my first gripe. My second gripe, and where this keyboard really falls short of how it's advertised, is this included audio interface. First of all, it's only a single channel, which is okay if literally all you need to do is plug in a single mic or a single guitar or something. But I need to do both. I need to have a mic so I can do voiceover, record percussion, and anything else I might need to record. And of course, I'm also a bass player, as you guys know, and guitarist, and having two separate inputs for each of those two things is kind of important. It's very uncommon to see a single channel in audio interface. Also, the control for the volume is on your encoder here, which you're trying to share with your software. So using different combinations of Alt and Shift modes on these buttons, that's how you navigate between controlling the master volume output, which is locked between the headphones and the speakers. So if you need to just listen through your headphones, you have to physically turn your speakers off. Not super convenient. It can be very, very confusing to toggle through all this stuff to access those volume controls, and then to get back into scrolling around in your software. Sometimes, this encoder, I have it set up to scroll through presets in a couple of my synth plugins, and when I was using this as an audio interface, I've since actually replaced it and got a Scarlett Solo, which you can see over here. I would find myself reaching for this knob to scroll through a preset and blowing out my monitors all of a sudden because I twisted it, not thinking about it, and I wasn't in the right little toggle mode or whatever for it to be controlling the output from the audio interface component of this device. Now, that all honestly to me kind of pales in comparison to my biggest thing with this interface, which is that it does not have any dedicated drivers or software. IK Multimedia expects you to use Windows Audio drivers when installing this thing, or Core Audio drivers on a Mac, or when I got in touch with their tech support and asked for alternatives, they directed me to ASIO for All, which, if you guys are familiar with ASIO for All, it is an ancient little audio routing kind of generic driver thing that I first remember using when I was maybe 12. We're talking the better part of 20 years ago. I was using ASIO for All to try to do stuff with very old PC sound cards. We're talking Windows XP, Windows ME days. ASIO for All is functional, yes, it works as a driver for pretty much any audio device, but it is not good. It's not easy to use. It doesn't give you good latency. In fact, it gives you very, very poor latency. And with this device, I was never able to get it to a low enough point of latency to where it was particularly usable, okay? Now, when you're just playing soft synths, obviously there's zero latency there because it's all Midi. But when I was recording bass, there was always, at least 30 or 40 milliseconds, if not more. Now, also the kind of buffer size and the prowess of your interface helps a lot with playback and DSP processing in your software in terms of being able to run soft synths and run effects and all this kind of stuff. This thing just couldn't handle it. When I would try to pull up a big session and I was using ozone for mastering and using, more complex reverbs and all this kind of stuff, it would just choke. It would start glitching. It would start dropping out. I'd have to set the latency to just hilarious numbers, a quarter of a second, 250 milliseconds, that kind of a thing, to get it to play back smoothly. But even then, I was doing this dance between Windows Audio and ASIO for all to get any of that done. So, I tried to use it for a couple of weeks, and then I ended up finding a great pro audio store here in Bangkok, and I picked up this Focusrite Scarlett Solo, which I will do a separate review on. It's a great little box. I really like it. But this thing, the fact that they crammed this audio interface in here, it's a cool idea, and I think that if they actually, took their time and wrote drivers for it and put professional chips in here that sounded good and could do, even with just this simple little Scarlett Solo, this is $150. I would gladly have paid another $50 or $100 for this keyboard if it came with a usable audio interface, if it didn't have this proprietary jack, if the layout of the transport and control stuff on the front made a little more sense without having to toggle into these alternate modes and all this stuff. There's more room here. Add a couple of extra knobs. Move these drum pads over a little bit. You've got even more room here. Just simple stuff like that. Again, as a MIDI controller, it's fine, and that's all I'm using it for anymore, is as drum pads and keys, and then some very basic control for synth plugins, to do cutoff and LFO and stuff. That's all very easy to assign. I got it all set up in Studio One, no problem. That's great. But half of what I wanted to get out of this keyboard was to have an integrated audio interface into it so that I didn't have to worry about dragging another piece of kit, more cables around. I could just run everything starts and stops here. It's my interface, it's my controller, it's my control surface, bada bing, bada boom. Now, the last point that I want to make about it, and this gets back into this kind of control surface aspect, IK advertises this as something where you will be able to control all of their plugins automatically without mapping. Okay, so that is to say, in T-Rex 5 and in Syntronic and Philharmonic and Sample Tank and all of these different plugins that you get, that I got when I purchased this as part of this whole Total Studio bundle thing, it's all supposed to come automatically mapped. Now, I've seen that before. Obviously, when you get a complete control controller from Native Instruments, it's all mapped already. You don't have to do anything. When I got the Arturia Key Lab, it was already mapped to Analog Lab and V Collection and everything. I could pull up any V Collection synth and immediately have drawbar controls on the organs and all that kind of stuff. It was all done. It was all set up. That does not seem to be the case with this. I actually I can get these knobs to talk to Analog Lab, the Arturia thing, no problem. I can get them to talk to Spark, my main drum controller plugin, no problem. I cannot get them to work. The scrolling through presets works in Syntronic. These do not seem to work in Syntronic. I cannot get anything to really recognize in T-Rex 5. I tried for a little bit, just ended up giving up because I think it really comes down to the fact that they've used this proprietary USB connection. Getting it set up as transport control in Studio One was a little funky. I had to create an MMC device and do some MIDI learning, and it wasn't totally plug and play. But even then, there's still some pieces of software that I can't get to recognize it for what it is. They'll recognize the keys, definitely, but these controller code signals or CC signals or whatever don't seem to work 100% of the time. So that's also a little bit concerning and frustrating. But, again, overall, I think that they have a really great idea here. I think there's a lot of people that this is a fantastic solution for. It's just in the execution, it feels like they've fallen a little short. Is it a usable MIDI controller? Absolutely. It works totally fine for playing keys parts, playing instruments, that's all dandy. Does it work as an audio interface? No, not particularly, at least not by my standards. You know, maybe if there's somebody out there who was like recording a podcast or something like that, and all they needed to do was just get their voice into a computer, maybe. But in terms of using it for any kind of professional work, the interface just chokes. I mean, again, it doesn't even have any dedicated drivers running it. They expect you to just use Windows Audio, which is horrible. That is not, those are barely even drivers. They're really just meant for you to be able to like hear Netflix when you watch it. They're not meant for professional applications at all or using with professional equipment. The fact that they expect you to use that, and then when you contact them and go, hey, I need real serious drivers, they say ASIO for all, which is barely an inch above Windows Audio, that's not acceptable to me. So I've ended up replacing the interface component of it, and I really am just using it as a MIDI controller, which is fine, but I was really hoping for a little bit more when I picked this up. So overall, those are my thoughts on the iRig Keys I/O. Do I recommend it? As a travel MIDI controller, yes, it's fine. If you're expecting the interface to be particularly usable, no, I would say not, unfortunately. But those are just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Have you used any of iK's other hardware products? I have a couple friends who've used some of the other iKeys controllers, or iRig keys, or whatever. People seem to generally like them. Whatever you guys may think, definitely leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I always appreciate hearing from you. Again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Leave us a comment, give us a like, give us a share, click that notification bell to be kept up to date with our new videos, and I will see you in the next one.